So this is the next one that I'm going to do, build on video. So originally I was only going to do these on my high-end builds, but I've decided that people might want to see what I do on a low-end build. So this is going to be a little bit higher end than my low-end builds usually are, at least in the past. It appears that the hardware that I can use on ultra low-end builds appears to be in one of those phases where it's kind of jumping a leap on what I can get. So because this stuff tends to be about the same price, when you're talking used parts are only worth so much, but they're also only worth so little. So in this case, I was able to get a decent deal on an X99 based build, parts for an X99 based build. So what we have here is a Thermaltake. I believe this was I had to do some research. Some of these older cases, when I get them, I got to really hunt to figure out what the heck they are. So this is a Thermaltake Chaser A31, I believe. It's not the fanciest case in the world, but after I cleaned it out, it appears to be a solid case. It's actually got a bunch of hard drive bays here too. I don't know if you can really see that in the oh yeah, you can kind of see it in the video. So it's got quite a bit of storage potential. And then we are running a what is this, MSI X99 SLI Plus. I know it seems like the big name YouTubers are constantly droning on about upgrade path. I would argue that this actually has quite an upgrade path. Yes, there aren't new processors being released today, but there's not going to be new processors released indefinitely for AM4 or AM5 or 1700 either. There is a decent upgrade path if a buyer wants to upgrade this system. There is the let's see, what are the options? You can do an 8-core, 3 gigahertz for fairly inexpensive, under $100, quite a bit under $100. You could, if you wanted to upgrade the video card, you've got a bunch of PCI Express options. You could do PCI Express. I think you could probably do up to like a GTX 1080 and get decent scaling. You're not going to get, this isn't going to run a 1080 as well as say like an 8700K, but this is a decent 6-core chip, and it'll run a fairly high-end GPU. You can even get away with something like, if you want to go RTX, you get away with something like a 2060 or 2070 on this just fine. These, I believe, I believe they're rated for 64, but I think they'll take up to 128. So if somebody wants to turn this thing with a case like this into a server after they've used it for a year or two as a gaming desktop, there's definitely the capability to do that. It's got 10 SATA ports, so you've got a ton of storage expandability. You've got a NVMe SSD slot if you wanted to put a faster SSD in. With all of the 10 SATA ports, you certainly have the ability to do like a bunch of cheap 2 terabyte hard drives. So if you wanted to RAID like say 4 2 terabyte hard drives, if you get those for cheap, insanely fast, large game storage. It's got your USB 3.0 headers, so it's reasonably modern. Or if you're into old games, SLI, that kind of thing, you could certainly SLI a pair of video cards if you want to mess around with that. It's not the thing today, but it's still fun. I have a couple of X99 SLI builds that I do for fun. So there's a lot of options for this. It's not just dead. And then again, like I said, 8-core, 3 gigahertz, the i7 or i7 5960X, 3 gigahertz, 8-core. I can't remember which chip it is, but I believe there's a 3.6 gigahertz 6-core, which will get you pretty close to the gaming performance of something like an 8700K, something like that. Or if you want to turn it into like a storage server and you want a ton of cores for doing server stuff, I believe they sell up to 18 core processors for these. I'd have to look at the exact numbers, but I believe up to 18 cores. So again, tons of options for upgrade. Yes, it's not a modern platform from the sense of current generation chips aren't being sold, but there are a ton of upgrade options. There's a ton of stuff you can do with X99. It's DDR4, so RAM is readily available, dirt cheap in 8 gig sticks. You can do 8x8 for 64. Heck, you could probably find the RAM for free on Craigslist if you really watched. So tons of options there. So then I'm doing, it came with this RAM. I thought it was basic until I looked. It's actually 16 gigs of Crucial DDR4. It doesn't have fancy heat spares on it, but it's good RAM. Anyone that knows parts knows Crucial's good stuff. I got a Samsung 512 SSD with it. It's just an 850 EVO. Works great, though. I'll probably put some sort of hard drive or multiple hard drives in for large storage. I haven't decided what yet, but I'll probably put a hard drive of some sort in to add to that. I didn't even know these existed, but this appears to be a stock X99 heatsink, which again, I didn't know these were even a thing. Maybe the 5820K being on the lower end for X99, maybe it came with them. I don't know. Like I said, I've never seen one. Most people liquid cooled these. I was going to do an aftermarket heatsink until I pulled the fan off and I realized how big the hunk of copper is in the center of this. And it appears to have a heat pipe or a vapor chamber or both, something like that. So I'm gonna use it. As long as the noise and the thermals are where they should be, there's no reason not to use it. If it's overly loud or it's not running at a reasonable temperature, then we'll look at doing something fancier. But if the temperatures are where they need to be, I'll just leave it. We've got a fairly nice variant of the GTX 1060. I was a little torn between this and a 980 Ti for this build, but I think the 1060, even though it's technically slightly slower than the 980 Ti, I think the 1060 might be a better build just as far as modern features, capability, that kind of thing. We'll see. This is mainly like a Fortnite build, you know, light stuff like Cyberpunk is going to run at low, medium settings, 1440p upscaling, that kind of thing. So it'll run decent. And this is gonna be probably a $300 build. I know there's gonna be those who say that's too little. There's gonna be those that say that's too much. With the price I can get parts for and the effort it takes to build a system, I simply cannot get the price lower. This is the lowest unless I get the hardware for free, I can't get the price any lower. It is what it is. And then last but not least, we have a 600 watt Thermaltake power supply. Again, I know there are those who swear by these. There are those that hate them. I've got no feeling one way or the other. I haven't had any issues with them yet, so it's a decent low mid-range power supply in my experience. So for what we're building, it's going to be perfectly fine. So let's jump into the build. I'm going to try to do this one a little bit faster. We're going to try to speed run this build. I've already pre-prepped the case. I have replaced all of the crappy original low-end Thermaltake fans with actually got a matching set of NZXT fans, just the normal non-RGB generic NZXT fan that they put in all their cases. They're good-looking fans, so I figured I had a bunch of them on hand. I wasn't going to do RGB on this build, so here we are. So let's jump into the build, and let's see how fast I can do a decent build. Okay, so we are back. So, as I kind of mentioned, this one I pre-prepped. So, when I get these used cases, the last one of these I did was in a brand new case. When I get these used cases, they're almost always going to be a little bit dirty. Even the cleanest ones I get, some are a little cleaner and some are a little dirtier than others, but they will always be a little bit dirty. So I've decided when I do these builds, I want them to just be, first part here, first thing I always put in is our I/O shield. That's just the little piece that goes in the back that makes it so there's not a bunch of open space between the ports. Let's see if I can get a little more light in here. It's kind of a balance between light and being washed out. It's kind of hard to get it perfect, but I think we're close enough here. So we put this in. Yeah, so I basically restore the cases to as close to like new condition as I can. before I do the builds on video. So we're going to put the board in, and that includes installing new fans. I don't always replace the fans, but in this case, they had those really low performance ones that have kind of that super cheapo look to them, that like acrylic-y look to them. I don't know. Those of you who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. The old style ones, like the Scythe brand looking style ones, where they're kind of sometimes they'll have like really dim LEDs on them, and they'll have like a super dim LED glow, and there will be like you can feel them like there's no torque behind them. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's see if we can actually put in all the screws. Let's see if I can keep this where you can actually see what I'm doing, too. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, there's not really any way to... I'm trying to make it so you can see as much of this as possible, but... I've mentioned this before, but I will mention it again. When you're putting the screws in, first of all, there are two screw sizes. There are two motherboard screw sizes. I don't know if you can see it on this. There's that and this. You can kind of see the difference. Some cases, the standoffs are configured for the smaller size, and some they're configured for the large size. If I had to say, I'd probably say that the larger size is the more common. This one uses the smaller size, though. Yeah, I'd say the larger are a little more common. But if you try to put the larger ones into the smaller ones, if you twist hard enough, you will be able to put them in, but it'll be a bitch and a half if you ever want to take your board out. So, and if you put in and you cross thread, that'll also make it a bitch and a half to get your board out, and you'll have to use a pair of pliers to make sure, once you get it out, when you unscrew it, it'll screw the whole standoff out. And if you do it on like a middle standoff instead of one of the edge ones, you got to make sure that you're not bulging up the board, and it just makes your life a lot harder. So be careful when you're putting these in, is the moral of the story. Make it easy for yourself to take them out later if you need to. Don't over tighten, but don't under tighten. Try to make sure these are the perfect tightness. Yeah, I think we're good there. Okay, what do we want to do next on this one? Let's see. Do I have enough of this? I'm hoping I do. Let's do this. So this is just some Noctua compound. I'm going to go with the tried and true large center. Some people like it one way, some people like it another way. I like the large center dab of it. That was the rest of it that was in here. I believe, if I remember right, that this thing lights up a little bit. So this is a budget build, but I do still do my budget builds. I do still cable manage my budget builds the same as I do my higher end builds. I'm trying to get this, this knotted heatsink thing undone, so I can get a little more of this, because I'm going to use... I got to have a little more length on here to hide this the way I'm going to try to hide it. Good grief. This is ridiculous. Okay, I think I almost got it. One more. Okay. Oh, one more. Oh, for the love of God. I'm about to lose my mind here. Okay, I think this is the last. Yeah, that's the last one. Okay. So, this is stupid, but I want the manufacturer. There you go. I want the manufacturer logo pointing the right way. It's just stupid stuff, but the other thing with it is that if you don't do the stupid stuff right, why would anyone trust you to do the not so stupid stuff right, you know? So X99 has built-in standoffs that are actually built into the socket for the mounting bracket. It's got built-in mounting bracket. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this and then hide it. It's not gonna be perfect. Unfortunately, they only recently started using black cables on the Intel stock heatsink. So unfortunately, you still get the multicolored cable. It's not that big of a deal, but, you know, if you're picky about it. Okay, that's good enough. Well, once I have a stick of memory or two in here, it'll be hardly noticeable. Do I have enough fans? Let's see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. We might have to use 1. 1, 2, 3. So I think, oh, 4 right there. There's our 4th. Okay, so we do have enough fan headers to run all of the fans. So that makes me kind of happy. Okay, so that's in, and then let's, in this case, I'm going to put the GPU in. With this particular build, it's fine. Normally, I wouldn't do it this early, but on this one, it's perfectly fine. And we'll put in both of the screws just to make sure it doesn't wobble as much. Okay, cool. And then first RAM is over there, so let's put our RAM in. These are labeled with the way that they have, if you're not fully populating the slots, there's a certain way that they want you to do it. And they're actually labeled. There's a little diagram on the board that actually shows this is the one we want you to put it in. Okay, so that part is done. And then, okay, so let's do, I think I like what I did last time with my last build, where I did the power supply at the very last. That worked out really well, actually. I wonder if I can. Let's see here. Looks like I'm going to have to put the US. I was hoping to use, well, maybe I can still do it. Let's see if I can. Hoping to use the, so this board has a backwards facing USB 3.0, which means you can kind of hide it if you do it right. Kind of got to go easy on bending these. You don't really want to bend them much, but in this case, I think we'll be okay. Okay, I think I did it. Nice. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. This case doesn't actually have any USB 2.0 headers. Okay, so let's and this doesn't have a lot of. So you gotta be careful when you're managing these USB 3.0s. They are large, beefy cables, and you don't want to bend them or twist them too much. Okay. Now this is definitely going to be a substantially faster build than the last one I did. Let's grab some more zip ties here. Pro tip, buy zip ties on Amazon in bulk. I usually buy them in the thousands, because even my lower end builds, I still tend to use like 20 or 30 of them. Same thing with the Velcro ties. You really want to just buy them in bulk. Okay, so that'll keep that out of the way. And me being the stupid stickler for perfection that I am. Now when you're doing this, just tight enough. Don't over tighten them. I used to over tighten them because I didn't know what I was doing, and that caused some issues. So definitely be careful when you're doing that. Okay, and then our integrated audio. Let's run this. Let's see if I have enough. There, just enough. Sometimes you gotta kind of bend the motherboard just a tad bit. Not a just like a micrometer is enough. Just enough to let it slip out. So onboard audio is almost always down in this corner, at least on anything made in the last, I don't know, since Pentium 4 generation, basically. Okay, now if I'm lucky, that'll be just tight enough that the power supply will slot right in there. Let's see, what else do we got here? Okay, so that's that. So now here's another trick you can do is zip tie one cable to already run cables. In this case, that's the perfect way to make that work. This just keeps it from trying to do whatever the heck it decides it wants to do in the future. I also don't really want that sticking up like that if I can avoid it. Whatever. Can I put that under there? No. Let's do one more here. Okay, so then, let's see, I think I had, crap, I don't even remember. What was that last one? It was in oh yeah, it was in that weirdo place right there. I wonder, let's check our power supply and see if we have the kind of space I was hoping. Oh, I think we might actually. Okay, yeah, I think we've got. Do we got it? Yes, we do. Okay, cool. So we do have the space for a cable running there. So what I'm going to do, I may have to loosen the screw to do it, but I'm going to try pushing. Let's see here. Let's do. one of these. Let's see if I can do it here. Okay, so I think I'm going to have to loosen, well, maybe not. Yeah, we're going to have to loosen the motherboard just a bit. So we're just going to loosen the screw. This is another good reason why you want to not overly tighten the screws. So you want to do these two. And that'll let you bend just enough the board for you to slip one of these through in the same, oh yeah, it slips right through, okay. In the exact same place as the onboard audio. So then, we just plug it in right there. Bam, look at that, perfect cable management. And then there will be zero visible cabling once the, there's like no, there are like no cable management, grommets or holes or anything. I may get to the point where I start drilling the cases myself for like a hole there, and then have something for cables on the backside. The problem with doing it is you don't know until you start the build where you want them to be. And so my concern has always been, actually as dumb as it sounds, metal shavings. Because if I drill holes after I've already got the board in place, it's going to be a little bit difficult to avoid getting metal shavings in the build. Okay, let's see. Where else can we put... Okay, so there's one down there. Let's see here. It's in the corner, so we run it. Oh, yeah, no. There was one. The top one. Oh, yeah, it was in this weird place there. So we want that one running back up through. Okay, where is it? It didn't even go through. Okay, so we run it back through here and plug into this one here. And then the way we do that is we just cable tie this to there, maybe here, and maybe one more up towards the top, and then we're good on that. Let's do two. Here. And right here. Yeah, like I said, I think I'm leaning towards going with a power supply being the last install item going forward, because other than the power supply, or other than the video card, I think that's the most likely thing to actually fail. Okay, so we got one up top. Can I go in the top there? No, it looks like, well, I might be able to. Can I go up through the... Oh, I can. Okay, cool. Okay, so we'll run this under here. And then under there. So we're running up the very top and out the top of the board. So this case is not absolutely ancient. It's probably like a mid-20 teens design, but it is a lower end case, and that means that you do have to do a lot more of the stuff that would be simpler on a modern build, shall we say manually? Okay, so then where do we want the last one to go? I think that was that one. If I remember right, it's the one at the very bottom. Yeah, okay, so this one, we're gonna actually do, yeah, there's actually not that much length. So once we pull it out there, actually this is gonna be one of those ones where I tuck it underneath. So one of the tricks with this is you take the cable as it comes out and tuck it underneath the board nearest where it comes out. And then you have a nearly completely hidden cable if you do it right. You gotta push it a little ways under there so that it's under there well enough that it won't just pop right back out. But once you do that, it's almost invisible if you do it right. So then we pop it back over here, and we do this. So there's nothing to actually tie these to. Oh wait, actually, yes there is. So let's do here. And over here, there's one more. And this build will be almost as cable managed as any modern build once I'm done with it. Okay, so then we do that one to there. Some people would say I'm ridiculous, but I tend to feel like these extra touches are what makes my builds better than the next guy's builds. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Let's just do one more to hold this in place. Okay, so then we've got one there. So that should be complete. And then we run, let's see, how do I want to do this? I want to run there. Let's see, how far? Oh, wow. Okay, that's kind of crazy. The front panel is way the heck over here. So that's unusual. Usually it's way over here. To have it over there is a little odd. So we're actually going to run this. Let's just kind of tuck it under. actually what we're going to do here, we're going to kind of braid it. So we'll put it down here. Boom. Okay, so that'll go that way. And then back over there. And then let's do one more braid. So we'll kind of, so basically we're just wrapping it around. And then it'll come out right here next to where we want it. There we go. Okay. So, let's see. Let's do this. Put that up there. Okay, so then our cabling came out right here, right where we want it. So let's start with our power. Okay, so if I remember right, I think hard drive plus minus right there. These are usually the same. Power is definitely here. Reset is definitely here. Power and reset don't really matter on polarity. I'm sure somebody will tell me, you're wrong, they do, but they don't. And then let's do, I believe minus is right here. And plus is right here. These are easy to change, though, if we need. Okay. So now that that's all in place, let's drop the power supply in. And I'm going to put that down. Let's actually do this just to make our life a little easier. We're going to run, see if I can show you what I'm going to do here. So we're going to run cables and stuff. I can't really show it on camera though, can I? Can you see? I guess maybe you can see. No, you can't. Nah, there's no way. There's not really any way to show this on camera, so I can't really do it on camera. So we're just going to put this in. So now, all of our cable management here is hidden by the power supply. The only thing that sucks about this is if I did something wrong and I have to take it all back apart. Luckily, that doesn't happen nearly as often as it used to. Okay. And there's actually just enough space between the top of the power supply and where I ran those cables that it's not squashing or risking damaging the cables either. So then what we're going to do is we're going to run all of the cables back behind the computer. Oops, good thing I didn't need that. So maybe I can show now. See here. Can I show it? Oh, let's try. So, where is it? It's that hole. I don't know how well you can see it in the video, but we just push all of the cabling through there, and you'll see it all disappear. Bam, okay. Now, it is worth mentioning, as I mentioned before, I did pre-route. Sorry, not pre-route. I did a pre-build on the case. So realistically, there was about an hour of work done. And maybe I'll do a video on how to properly refurb a case so you can actually see what I do to a case when I first get it. Like I said, some of these cases are, like I occasionally get a case that's basically ready to use, but most of these cases require about an hour of work after I receive the case to be usable. Let's see, it's right there. So we're going to run our big one first. Bam, right there. So flip us over and put that in. So you do have a spare USB 3 front panel header if for whatever reason you need it. Hoping stuff eventually starts, stuff that uses the 2.0s right now starts using those eventually. Let's see here. Actually, let's do this. Let's do that. I gotta hide it somewhere, but... So you can easily see through. So I had to remove some of the grommets on this because they were kind of worn out and looked kind of nasty, so I pulled them out. It technically is going to be easier just to hide cabling than it is to hide the worn out grommets, so we'll just do that. So the way I'm doing this build now, the power supply is basically kind of an afterthought. So in theory, if you ever have to replace this power supply, which again, I'm beginning to find that I'm needing to replace power supplies just slightly less often than video cards. Now, to those who say, see, that's what happens when you use used power supplies. You should buy new because you don't want to risk damaging a system. I will say that my experience is that those times where a power supply goes out and takes the system with it, that almost never happens. Can it happen? Yes. Does it happen often, though? Not in my experience. And I've built hundreds of systems. I don't know if I've ever actually had that happen. My experience is that usually a power supply failure stops at the power supply. Again, I'm not discounting that it could happen. I'm just saying usually it doesn't happen. Okay. That's not going to do what I wanted. I should have... Can I do this? Is there enough space there? Oh, don't want to damage that. There might be. Let's do this. Let's pull. No, let's do this. Oh yeah, I forgot to do that. This guy has to go up here, and if I remember right, getting it through here, so these separate. Come on. Just like that. Yeah, you're not able, this one I wasn't able to get it through when I disassembled the build. I wasn't able to get it through without doing what I just did. Even now it's being a pain in the butt. There it goes. Okay, cool. So then flip this over. Ooh, you know what? That's going to be, ooh. Okay, it's not going to be that difficult, but it could have been a lot harder than it was. Okay, so then this snaps back together. Actually, this has a kind of a slider design to it to hold it together. Have an odd I've seen that a few times. It's less common. Okay, and then sorry, I'm in the way here. This one I simply cannot show. Some of this stuff, for me to do effectively, I would need a second person on camera to actually show. Okay, so let's do this. Let's see. Now, some of these lower end power supplies don't have quite as long of cables. Okay, let's see if that's long enough to do what I wanted. Oh, you know what? That is long enough. Nice. Actually, it's more than long enough. So let's do this. Let's zip tie this out of the way. So I'm just zip tying the second 8-pin. It'll be almost invisible once I put it together. One more. Yeah, so as I said, I use a lot of zip ties with my cable management style. Okay, let's see if I can do that now. So this, it's actually fairly rigid. Just gonna go. Oh, there we go. Okay. Is it in? I feel like it's a little loose. Okay. It is in and almost completely hidden. So you can kind of see that now. So it's kind of almost completely hidden in there. Okay, so then let's, we just gotta do the simple stuff. So there's actually more. Let's get this out of the way. So this is gonna go, well, let's see here. These didn't quite do what I wanted, but that's okay. So let's zip tie all of this together. That'll at least try to keep it out of the way. It's pretty unusual, even with cases of this age, to not get any cable management tie downs in this area. Usually you get at least one or two, but if you're creative, it's not that big of a deal. We'll just do this. And that goes there. And we are good to go. Okay, and then yeah, see, I gotta, let's see here. Okay, let's do that. Let's just snake it along there. Running out of my zip ties that I grabbed. So we're just snaking it along right next to the main power cable here. So once I'm done, even with the missing rubber grommets, this will be almost all completely hidden. You'll be able to see just a tiny bit of it, but it'll be mostly hidden. Let's see here. Do we have... Oops, that was the wrong one to go that way. Let's do This is one of the classic ways that I hide. So if you don't need anything to go right there, you can hide a cable like this in that area. If it decides to cooperate. This one does not want to cooperate, so I guess we're just gonna zip tie it right there and call it a day. I wanted to zip tie it I wanted to attach it underneath there if I could, because let's see if I can do that still. Yeah, there we go. Okay. That'll help keep it out of the way when I close the lid or the back panel. Let's see here. I guess I can do that. I can just face them in like that. That works. I don't want to have multiple. I don't want to have multiple of them sitting on top of each other when I go to close the panel. Okay, and then so it looks like these have 3 each on the SATA. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna grab some more zip ties here. Like I said, I buy them in the thousands, so I got plenty of them. Tend to use more of them on older builds like this just because of the lack of suitable tie-down points. Okay, so what we're doing here is we are pre-wiring these hard drive bays so that our buyer, actually, let's, do I have, we need some Velcro ties for this one. So I want the buyer who purchases this, if they decide to add more drives, I want them to be able to just install drives and have power already there, rather than hiding the cables elsewhere. So that's going to go there. Okay, so that's already, so that gives us that. And then there's actually space. You can't really see it, but these, can I do it? You gonna go? No, I need one more. So there is space in here. I think I can get away with that. Yeah, I should be able to get away with that. Where we can just zip tie. There we go. Bam. Okay, so you can kind of see I'm zip tying in on the edge of the hard drive caddy thingamajigger. So then, that's already in place. Then, like I said, our buyer can do whatever they want with drives in the future. Hopefully there's enough space there. Sometimes this part right here, there isn't enough space when it closes. I think this one might have had a bulging back panel, though. I'd have to look. Okay, and then what we want to do here is install, probably on that middle, we'll put the, no, let's do the top one with the SSD. Let's see, how is this? Yeah, okay, so the top one's going to be the SSD. Now, I did already clean all of these. So the hard drive caddies are one of those places actually where quite a bit of dust tends to build up. So you want to pull those out and individually clean them if you can. Okay. So we're going to put this and probably one medium-sized hard drive in here. So these are set up, as you can see, for both 3.5. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think we're going to go with maybe two 500 gig drives. I have a source where I get these 500 gig drives that I have like an unlimited supply of them, so dang it. I like to put a couple of them in these lower end builds. There we go. Okay, there's that. So then this will start. There we go. It's actually really tight. It's not usually that tight when you put that in. That's interesting. Okay, so kind of hide that. So then when we run the other ones, it'll be bam and bam. Okay, so and this is kind of, oh, and it came with enough, I didn't even think about that. It came with enough SATA ports to do it too. I am not going to be able to do it on this build, but I'm kind of a stickler for first, you know, drive 0, drive 1, drive 2, that kind of thing. It's kind of stupid in this case because it doesn't really matter like it used to with IDE, but okay, so we run that first cable. Let's do this. Let's run it here, there, and then we'll kind of, once we have them all in place, then I'll cable manage all of the hard drive cables at once. Okay, so let's make sure that this thing actually turns on. This is always the moment of truth. Did I do it right? So let's just plug in. And I haven't actually tested this GPU with this set of hardware. I've tested it independently, but that doesn't always mean it's going to work with this set of hardware. Okay, so let's see if it works. So it should just turn on. There we are. Ooh, you know, I thought there was going to be a light. It might turn on and off a couple times, though. It might just come up, though. Let's see what it does. I moved the memory around from where it originally was, so sometimes that will cause, oh, it looks like it's just going to come up. Ooh. Okay, CPU or memory changed, because it did. Okay, let's see. F2, load default values and continue. This might just come up and work. Okay, that actually makes me happy. So it actually just powered up and worked. So that's what you want to have happen, but that's not always what does happen. Okay, so since we know it works, let's do this. Let's, I think the last time I used this, I think when I originally set it up, I set it up with an AMD card, so I need to plug the network in for a second so that it gets network, and then like 30 seconds to a minute after you get network, it'll download just a base version of the NVIDIA driver, and you'll see the screen will flash for a second, and then your screen will be the right. Oh, there it goes. Let's see if I can. Just about dead on my battery on my camera here. Let's see if that works. And it worked, and it even detected my G-Sync. Nice. Okay, so usually what I'll do at this point, I'll just flip it off. So we know it works. So let's grab our two 500s. Should be in a drawer here. Where are you? Well, looks like this does have a nice side panel. I wish I had a clue how to cut glass. Then I'd try to make custom glass side panels for some of these cases. Okay, so the source that I get these 500s, they're almost always good. I rarely get defective ones. So usually I put them in and then I run drive diagnostics on them, and if I get one that for whatever reason is showing as failing, I'll replace it at that point. But it's so rare for it to be an issue that I usually just assume they're good. Okay, so that one there. And that one there. Actually, looks like that's missing. That one. I should have used that one for the SSD. It's missing one of the little grommet thingies that pop into the screws. These are kind of just a chintzy design that just pops. Just bends it. You just bend it and put the drive in. Kind of surprised how many places do it that way. Okay, so then we want to do two more. That one's an L bracket. So typically I do this with it standing up. I'll try to make it visible. Can't really see. Yeah, I guess you can see it if I do it that way, I think. Okay, bam. Now, as I said initially, this has 8. This thing has 8 SATA, or I'm sorry, not 8, 10 SATA ports. There's some specialty versions of this. I think ASRock did a specialty version of this board with some sort of secondary SATA controller. Because a manufacturer can add SATA controllers if they want. I'm actually surprised you don't see more consumer boards with add-in SATA controllers. Because there are weirdos like me that will buy boards that have tons of SATA on them, I do definitely have a preference for... Okay, so let's do this. So this will go there. So, actually, let's do this. Let's put it in there first, because it's going to be harder to do if I wait. Gosh, these are tight. I feel like I'm going to break the port. Okay, bam. Good to go. Then we're going to hide all of our SATA underneath the bottom. Let's do this. Let's put this one there. Actually, no, let's do this. Just to keep that out of the way, we'll put the right angle one down at the bottom. And then this one right there. And then we just tuck all of the remaining cables there, and maybe do one, let's do one zip tie. Call it good. So I think that concludes our build. Let's make sure. Let's see, where's the back panel for this one? Here it is. So let's make sure that the back, oh, and it is a bulged back panel, so that should should easily allow us to put that on. Look at that. So, I think we're good to go on this one. Bam! Look at that. So, yeah, so that's good to go. One thing I will recommend doing is this. When you flip it back over, if you want to avoid, it's a cheap build, but since the case isn't beat up, I don't really want to destroy the case. There's no good reason, and you're gonna hurt the value of your build, even for a low-end build like this, if it's beat up. So you're better off to keep the case in good condition. So just set a towel under there so that you don't, because it'll grind the, just a sec, need another towel here to wipe the front panel, side panel. You will grind into the paint, and it'll just absolutely destroy the finish. And wow, screws keep calling out. I thought they were a little more captive than that. Looks like this one has some dirtiness on it, but other than that, it's decent. Let's see here. So yeah, that's actually a pretty decent looking build. Another thing that I usually do, I'm not going to show it in the video, but I do like to keep back panel slot covers on hand, just so you can kind of have a more complete package with your build. So it's not perfect condition. It's not like new, but it's not beat up either. No major dents, no cracks, none of that. Just the normal wear and tear that you get on a acrylic side panel windowed case. So yeah, it'll probably be a solid $300 build once I make sure the video card's good enough to do everything we need. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed another look at one of my builds, and we'll do more. So thanks for watching.